All right, we're live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Handle with Scare, presented by the /Incast Podcast Network. We are a horror movie podcast discussing horror movies and the phobias that they emphasize. With me tonight, as always, are both of my co-hosts. We have Holly Hooch and John, and guys, here we are, slowly winding down aquaphobia, but sticking to the tried and true method that we've been using for the bulk of this megaphobia, with another creature feature, which is near and dear to my heart, and I know, probably one that still not a lot of people have gotten to see, but now that it is available to stream, and it also has a 4K release, more and more people are getting to experience just how great Alligator is. So I cannot recommend this movie enough for people, and of course, it is streaming now on Shudder, as well as the sequel.
Yeah, I was really surprised at how good it was. Well, not really surprised, but I wasn't expecting it to be as good as it was, and fucking hilarious too.
Yeah, it's another movie that's better than it. It's better than it has any right to be. Like, it seems like it should be so much worse, but is actually really good.
Yeah, I mean, there's some things I'd like to discuss, but they're more hilarious than I would say critical. So.
Absolutely. Well, I am your host, Emily Drug, and of course, we're here to talk about Alligator. But before we get into that, just a couple of reminders. We've been doing watch parties on Stream Lounge every Monday and Thursday. Tomorrow night, we'll be watching Creepazoids. And if we can't make that, we'll have a double feature on Monday of Hell Comes to Frogtown and Sorority Babes and the Slime Ball Bolorama. So, some grindhouse movies, but on top of that, we've been doing Christmas in July double features on Saturday and Sunday. So there's been a lot of stuff happening over on Stream Launch for me, and I know tomorrow, before Twisted Thursday, I'll even be streaming the entirety of the new Netflix Resident Evil series that drops at it's like midnight Pacific time or something that it drops. Tempered expectations. I don't know really what to expect, just because Resident Evil as a whole doesn't have the best track record when it comes to movie adaptations, but I'm going to give it an honest attempt, and we'll see how it goes. But, for the most part, lately we've been doing a lot of creature features. We saw last week what repercussions would follow after dumping formaldehyde into the Han River in one of the best monster movies out there in The Host, which still has one of the best monster reveals out there for sure. And tonight, we are going back to another movie that takes a lot of cues from Jaws, much like Piranha did, this time in Alligator. So I'm pretty sure this was the first time watch for some people. So I want to get your initial impressions, knowing that, this is, pure 80s schlock, for lack of a better term.
Well, the movie came out, was it, 81 or 80?
80.
81. So it still has, more of a 70s feel to it than an 80s feel, which I dug a bunch. Just that little extra slice of kind of awesomeness, having it still have, the look of 70s New York, too, which is really cool. And like I was saying before, I'm actually pretty crazy about the movie. I liked it a lot. The wedding scene, probably one of my favorite scenes in any horror movie in a long time. Mm-hmm. And then the thing that I kept saying that I was critical of was that, so basically there's a manhunt or an alligator hunt, however you want to say it, in New York. But there's at least two different scenes where the lead guy just, goes home for the night and is hanging out with his new girlfriend and flushed the alligator down the toilet. And just de-stressing from the day as the alligator's making his way through the city, just killing a bunch of people. I'm like, how do you have two down scenes? It seems like a lot.
It's a very 70s movie thing for sure.
Really?
Where it's the 70s cop movie detective thing, where you see their home life and they are at home having a beer, hanging out with their girlfriend or whatever.
You're but shouldn't you be out there? It's well, no, it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
I think it's meant to humanize
it.
Yeah, make you like the hero more.
Which it like did, but it's still like, hey, man, there's like a kid in like, in the middle of the ghetto, like trying to stab this thing with a kitchen knife.
Hey, you gotta leave work at work.
That's true. You gotta leave work at work. So that was my only, like, not exactly criticism, but I'm like, what the fuck is happening right now? But yeah.
So yeah, no, I gotta say too, somehow I've never seen this movie. Even though I watch all these kinds of movies, I've never seen it before.
Yeah, me either.
And I have to point out that as a kid growing up, there was always the urban myth. And the urban myth is exactly the first 15 minutes of the movie where it's somebody from a fair gets a baby alligator and then they flush it down the toilet and then it grows up and there's huge alligators living in the sewers of New York.
I feel like the abusive dad in that scene was,
that was weird. And
yeah, where it's like, you didn't need it to be so dramatic.
During that scene, I was like, what is he so mad about?
And like just grabbing this little guy and throwing him down. Oh, no, he made her flush him, right? I can't remember how that
He flushed
it. If there's a guy that being abusive towards a very tiny lizard, I would have guessed he would have just stomped it. But now, like, he gingerly and yet angrily picked it up and then flushed it down the toilet. What a damn shame.
And apparently in this New York, your toilet basically just has a direct line to the sewers. It's just like the just drops out of the tube into the sewer from the toilet. Like,
I'm not gonna lie, I'm not exactly sure how the system works.
But you're pretty sure that's not it.
Exactly.
They actually show the treatment plant.
Oh, that's right.
During the movie, so they do acknowledge that the treatment plant is there, but
somehow the alligator made it. That was a cute little guy too. Those little tiny alligators are fucking cute. Also, I'm drinking water today because I got too drunk during the host.
You've had, a few weeks to recover.
Totally. We always have to have a few drinks.
I know. But then we did 2 back to back, and by the time we did the second movie, I was already knee deep in party.
Yeah.
No judgment,
Thank you.
But yeah, I really appreciate any time we could introduce people to a movie that kind of like has that urban legend like backdrop to it, because like the urban legend of alligators living below New York City dates back almost 100 years at this point. And there's a couple of versions out there when it comes to like the telling of the story. One of them kind of like revolves around the fact of people like buying baby alligators while they're away on like a tropical vacation, and then taking them back home as pets, which is basically like what we saw at the start of Alligator. And like after you discover like, oh shit, like this is actually getting a little bit out of hand and becoming way too large for me to actually take care of, then they're just like, you know what, fuck it, we're just gonna flush it down the toilet, which exactly happens in this movie. But there was also in the mid 1930s, there was a news article that was posted by the New York Times that was saying like that there was this alligator found like in a manhole, and there was these group of teenagers that found it when they were like shoveling snow, and actually like trapped it and killed the alligator. But like no one really knew how the alligator got into the manhole in the first place. But like it's the myth itself has been around for so long. But like of course, like with any urban legend, not a whole lot of like factual information out there in regards to that happening, but. Either way, I just love that the way that this movie is introduced is the more common urban legend behind the alligator living in the sewer, which is fantastic. Now, as we mentioned in the past, this was a little bit ago, like when we were talking about Piranha, I mentioned, Joe Dante was offered to direct Alligator as well. He ended up turning this role down, and, he would eventually go on to direct The Howlin'. And, this came out 2 years after Piranha had come out, which, a lot of people will always look at Piranha as being, like, the ideal, like, Jaws ripoff in this case. But, Alligator is really up there as well. But, of course, I think Alligator more so draws from a lot of the tropes and it's more beat by beat with Jaws than Piranha was, which we'll get into here in just a bit. But one of the interesting things about this, though, is Robert Forster, who had played David, the hero cop in this, was overcoming spinal meningitis. So, like, he was still recovering from that as they were filming this. So. Wow. It's very interesting to know that now, after seeing like what sort of performance he actually gave in this, because you really felt for his character in this movie. Like, he was like an everyday man, essentially. And I love that they still had the cop trope of oh, I'm gonna take away your shield, So you have to have that redemption arc
and the dead
of the renegade cop, and the dead partner
that he felt guilty about. Exactly, and
then he lost another one right away.
Yep. And had flashbacks about it.
Yeah,
too.
That was pretty great.
But that actor, he's great. He's in tons of movies.
Yeah.
And is in my favorite Quentin Tarantino movie, Jackie Brown. Oh, yeah. And he's basically the main character. And he's pretty timeless because he doesn't look that different
he looked
in
pretty
Jackie
good.
Brown than he does in this movie.
I thought he was beefy. And the leading lady, I forget her name in the movie. Like, she's also been in a ton of stuff. Yeah. And I feel like I'd seen her a bunch in like the late 80s, early 90s doing like the mom roles, and so it was kind of cool seeing her.
Well, and yeah, just to generally...
The younger side, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And just to generally talk about the cast, it's filled with all these people that it's filled with those character actors that you see
but
in tons of movies. Like the
guy with the crazy eyebrows.
Yeah,
the boss.
He's in
whatever his name
The
is.
Godfather.
Oh, yeah.
And I love the random scenes of him just yelling at people on the radio, but that's jumping ahead a little bit. But there's that guy, and then there's the pet store owner, who is the guy from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and he's been in tons of movies and TV shows. And the newspaper guy, almost every speaking role in this movie is like a character actor that you've seen in other stuff, but isn't necessarily like a star. And
they're all solid actors, and none of them take you out of the story or out of the scene. They're pretty great. And I really enjoyed in the movie too how they don't let you linger with the whole because initially he sees the alligator and he tells people and they don't really believe him, but at least they go out and they look for him, right? And then of course they don't find the alligator because he is an elusive fucker, even though he's over 500 pounds. He's huge, or 1,000 pounds. I can't remember how much he ended up weighing.
It was like. I don't know if it's jumping ahead too much. I don't want to jump ahead of the beginning too much, but it's really funny how I like the fact that in the beginning it's sort of like, oh, this is a myth. Like, it's probably a person doing it. It's not an alligator.
It switches over pretty quick though, which I liked.
But they do the cops sweep through the sewers, and then they do that kind of a fun fake out where the cops get all quiet at the last second.
Oh, yeah.
And you're not sure if the alligator got him, and then they pop out.
And they're like, no, they're fine.
The thing that's wacky, though, is that shortly after that, so basically they're like, we got to get out of here. Like, this is a shit show for us, those actors.
Right.
Because they realize, oh my God, they didn't find them. Now we're going to be the laughing stock.
Yeah.
But shortly after that, the giant alligator smashes through the street in front of crowds of people.
Yeah.
But they continue through the story being like, oh, this isn't an alligator. And they're like, oh, they kick him off the force.
But not for too long, right? Because, and you can kind of think about it in terms of nobody, information didn't get around as quick. Nobody was filming with their cameras. So, true. Even, and then the one poor cop that was there got eaten.
Yeah.
Well, although that alligator took a lot of legs. He only took, whole bodies a couple of times, but he was just like, oh, I'm just going to take this leg, I'm going to be on my way. But I did like that, it wasn't too long before, okay, they believed him and things were back on track, but that was a really great scene, because I thought they were going to, that whole, oh, we don't believe you, nobody believes it's an alligator thing was going to go on for a lot longer in the movie. Which is a little frustrating, but that's only because it's meant to be, and it works on me. I get frustrated for the main character. And so it was really awesome to see this fucker just, tear through, the sidewalk in the middle of, this busy street with like these kids like hanging out and and people like just gawking and you're like, run away. And then also, what the fuck was up with the cop? I mean, he just seemed to make all the wrong choices.
The guy who got eaten down in the sewer?
No, the one who, when he tore through the sidewalk. And
the guy who climbed out of his car.
Burning car in front of the alligator. I'm like, why didn't you go out the other side, man?
Or stay in there. Like,
stay
he can't
in
get through the window. He climbs out and then immediately gets eaten.
Although, as we saw in the wedding scene, which we won't talk about too much because that's further ahead, he might have not made it anyway.
Yeah, true.
That was pretty rad.
Mm-hmm.
But, I like how the alligator was able to evade the police. Like,
so sneaky.
It was totally, like... Their plan was actually really good in terms of trying to flesh it out, which I think really would have worked in real life in that situation.
I like the command center they set up right outside of the sewer, where everything is like
in the water, and they're all in hippolers.
And they're like, there's like maps up on the side of the fucking like. What do you call it?
They
bank
set
or whatever?
Home base in the water.
I know.
It's like, seriously?
What are you doing?
And it's dry like 10 feet over. They could have just like been in the dry area.
They got to use up that budget somehow.
Mm-hmm. And I also like how the SWAT is in like desert. They look like desert commandos or something. Like normally SWAT is like a blue uniform, like a police uniform, but all the SWAT guys in this were in these like tan sort of desert military outfits. It's like, oh, okay, I guess that's all they could get a hold of for the movie. They couldn't get.
It's an alligator. You can't tell the difference.
Also, there's something strangely funny and weird about seeing police SWAT members like filing down the sewer. Like they show them sort of like rapid response going down the sewer, and it's just like, do you send SWAT into the sewers to look for alligators? Is that more like animal control? Like, should they be sending?
Maybe that was animal control, and that's why they had the gray outfits or outfits. I don't know what to call that shit. But yeah, I mean, okay, so. All right, so that was an elusive alligator. This like 1,000-pound alligator.
Yeah, I mean, he also hid in the trash too in the alleyway.
Yeah, he was ambushed. He had the ambushes set up really nicely.
Yeah, so there was a couple of really fantastic large animal eating man scenes. So right after this, he eludes the police, but at this point, when they've already set up the command center, he's already broken through the sidewalk, or was that the?
No, that happens after the.
Okay, gotcha.
Because they don't find him,
and they assume
then everyone's
he's not
like,
real.
"Oh, what an idiot!" about our main character, and then pretty shortly after that, the alligator comes smashing out of the street.
Yeah, and it was kind of cool how they explained how the alligator survived. So eating small animals, including pets, which is really sad.
It felt weird because to kind of go back a bit, we had there's that little B story about the lab that gets their animals.
Oh my god, what an evil fucking lab.
There's like the pet store that supplies the lab with stolen pets from the neighborhood, which is just like,
it's so bad. It's so evil. And then like the scientist is like, I don't care when you get them.
Yeah, seriously. But in that scene, it sort of felt like they were going to do a thing where the alligator was maybe like a mutant or had been altered somehow in the lab.
Oh,
but I don't know if I missed it, but I don't think there was anything like
think so. I think it was just that was his food supply, the fact that they were throwing away all these pets and dogs.
And he was...
Well, they were giving all the pets like growth hormones because they were trying to solve like a food issue.
Oh, was that what it was? And so then he was eating the pets, and that was causing it to grow.
Oh.
Okay, yeah. I didn't
get that either, no.
But I could tell, the thing is, I could tell they were doing something like that. I could see that they were doing something like that.
I went over my head, man.
I missed it.
Well, didn't we watch it after we did the host videos? And maybe I was just too drunk to figure that out.
I mean, that very well could be the case. But as I mentioned, like, this movie does follow the Jaws template pretty closely. I mean, you have the cop who senses, you have this monster lurking who absolutely nobody believes. You have the scientific specialist who, knows all about the creature in this case. And then you also have the big game hunter, who eventually meets his maker towards, cool. The later act of the movie. But it goes further beyond that too, because just like Bruce, the mechanical shark, the alligator in this one kept malfunctioning too, and was very difficult to work with. And I know I mentioned this prior, but they actually ended up donating the alligator to the University of Florida so they could use that as their mascot. So perfect, because it is Florida Gators after all, which is fantastic. I still to this day have not seen the sequel that came out. Which was straight to video in 1991. I know Alligator 2: The Mutation is also on Shudder, but from what I've been hearing is it takes itself way too seriously, where this one is more of like a self-aware satire of Jaws.
Yeah, so I forget if I mentioned it in the last podcast when we were talking about this movie a little, or maybe I noticed it when we were watching it, but it's written by John Sayles, who's the same writer as Piranha and the same writer as The Howling. So I never realized until watching these movies that he was consistently like, this is kind of his thing. And it's interesting because it's like the tone and feel of Piranha is really similar to this movie. Mm-hmm. Like where you have, this movie maybe has a little more comedy in it than Piranha maybe. They both have that kind of light adventure movie feel.
Yeah, I dig on that.
Which is good. Like, I almost feel like this movie is sort of influential on later adventure movies, because a lot of the I know it's like Jaws and Indiana Jones is kind of like the thing, but something I saw in this movie that I was like, it really stood out to me, and I was like, wow, that's actually something you see much more in modern movies now than in movies back then, which is the running joke throughout the whole movie about the main character losing his hair, and how different characters would mention his hair and mention hey, you should grow your hair longer and brush it over. And the pet store guy is like, hey, you're going bald like I am. And then later in the movie, the scientist girl,
his new girlfriend,
plays with his hair, and he's like, I know I'm going bald. I'm but that, the way that it's he's the kind of cool, handsome leading man, but he has this kind of self-deprecating thing that runs through the movie.
That's pretty neat.
Very modern. That's you see that in Guardians of the Galaxy, the Marvel movies, where they sort of make fun of the cool lead guy. But you don't really see that in the 70s. Yeah. That's not a good catch. And I was impressed by that, because I was like, oh my god, they're actually keeping that going through the movie. That's cool. And the fact that they called it out at all in the first place is kind of amazing. They never do that in old movies or things like that. Yeah.
It's pretty good. Good catch.
Yeah, I also appreciate the fact that Alligator is almost in the same universe as E.T. I don't know if you guys know about this. So in E.T., there's a scene after Elliot sees the alien for the first time, and they're all sitting down at the dinner table. And this is after Elliot saw it with his older brother, but they're having that conversation at the dinner table, and they're bringing up about basically alligators actually living in the sewer. So it's a direct reference to this movie, which I think is pretty funny.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. It has that feel for sure of kind of the classic. It feels like it could be we could get references to this world in Stranger Things. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
It's got that 80s nostalgia, where I think people are kind of picking from it. It's not just a coincidence kind of thing.
So the big game hunter scenes. I mean, that was again great, just setting. I don't know. Let's not jumping ahead too much, right? So, I mean, we have the big game hunter. Oh my goodness! Hold on, I got a special delivery. It's a claw. Well, I drink a bunch of water first, so see, baby stuff.
Cheers.
I have a great note about the original script about alcohol. So the original script took place in Milwaukee, and the alligator in the original script was basically living off of spilled beer from the breweries.
Oh my god.
That's adorable.
That's like Strange Brew or something, like in the Strange Brew universe. That's so. That feels like that would have been much more like a literal comedy if they went
absolutely.
that route.
They would. It'd have to be like, and then you have to come up with a reason why it got so big.
And I did. Yeah. That's the thing too. This movie totally made me think, like watching Piranha, and then this movie, how it's like you can just see all those low budget filmmakers' minds. Like the gears are turning where it's like, oh, Jaws is a huge hit.
Yeah.
And like, what can we do? They did Sharks. What can we do? You know, it's like,
Alligator. Done Piranhas.
Piranhas, Alligator.
Let's go back to a big one. We did a bunch of little ones. Let's do one big one again.
And I mean, really, the alligator can go on land and water. So,
it's true.
I mean, that's technically scarier than a shark.
It is true. And he goes to a wedding, uninvited. But yeah, let's not get to the wedding's like the big, like, so let's not like rush that one. But we can talk about Big Game. Did Big Game Hunter get eaten after the wedding or before the wedding? He got eaten after the wedding, right?
I liked how sleazy the Big Game Hunter was. He like hit on every
he was so gross.
And was just
reporters,
like a total asshole. He was really good. And that was also kind of like, that character was definitely felt like sort of comedic.
Right.
And, you know.
Well, I mean, this was basically Jaws in the city. You know, and like, I really enjoyed the fact that he got a bunch of like, you know, kids off the street. He's like, all right, kid, $20 a piece to go fight a fucking alligator. And they're like, yeah, man, let's do it.
He hired henchmen for like $5
But as we know, if you don't train your henchmen, then they're going to be completely useless.
Well, and if you underpay them, you're not getting any loyalty.
No, you're not.
They all instantly ran away.
Although they weren't, I mean, they were loyal enough. They just kind of knew that they had to run away. Although I guess the other guys did they have all weapons except for the...
No,
they didn't. Yeah,
only the hunter had.
So the kid that was with the hunter, he tries to pick up the rifle to save him, but he can't.
It's too late.
It's too late, and then he has to run away. But that was one of the few scenes where
that was a good looking scene.
Yeah, he's like in
really
this like this alley, and there's like trash everywhere, and there's this gigantic alligator and a man.
Yeah, at first I thought. When they first cut to the scene of him being where he's in the mouth of the alligator, I thought it was like a fake, like a smaller fake alligator with like a dummy, and then I realized no, that's actually a person. That's a giant like fake alligator. Like that's pretty
that was very cool because you could sort of like not psych yourself, but like pretend he's smaller than what they're going for in certain scenes. Because in certain scenes you only see like the snout coming out, taking a leg, going back, or you don't have like a reference, something.
The scale is a little bit off,
the scale.
For sure.
I think
it's a little weird.
Yeah, maybe that was not on purpose, but that wasn't just me making it up. Their scale wasn't consistent throughout the movie.
Well, there's some cool, as you mentioned, there are some miniature shots. And that are where it looks like they basically had a real alligator go walk through a miniature city, and it's way bigger than Cars at that point. And I was thinking, how does he fit in the sewer tunnels anymore? Like, I guess at that point he was kind of running around out of the sewers.
And really, also, he's only going in with at the big entrance, like that's bigger than a car.
Yeah,
because when he comes out, he's always brake busting through. You can't make it up a manhole.
Yeah. Yeah, he's gigantic. Which
16 feet.
16 feet. Holy shit! But I mean, and I don't think we talked enough about like the traumatic scene where his partner gets.
His partner gets eaten.
That was pretty intense.
That was
a good scene. He almost made it.
I thought they were gonna both make it. I was kind of surprised that he got eaten.
And then I was like, man, your reputation's never bouncing back from this one. You've lost 2 partners, dude. Who's going to want to partner with you? Bad cop.
There's a lot of bitten off legs in this movie.
I know, there's so many missing legs.
I love the shot, just to jump a little, the shot where the guy's legs get bitten off in the boat and they pull him onto the boat.
Yeah.
But they pull him onto the boat just enough to where like his legs are angled so you can see him clearly, and then they stop, and it's like you like
just take a good look,
get him in position where you can get that money shot and see the bit off legs. Like don't bother pulling him all the way into the boat.
And that was like a lake. That wasn't even like, wasn't it like a city? No, was it a lake in the city or like a recreational?
Or was it the canal? The canals? He was in the canals a bit. He moved around a lot.
He really got around. You got to see quite a bit of the Big Apple, so good for him.
One of my favorite shots, too, by the way, is the part. I think is it the wedding or is it a part?
That's my favorite part.
Well, there's that, but I don't know if it's connected to the wedding or it takes place around that. But where there's the little kid like Halloween party.
Oh my god!
And they made the one kid walk the plank,
and the alligator's
in there and immediately eats the kid.
I think that's after the wedding because is it? Yes, because I remember thinking the wedding was the most shocking thing I'd seen. And then later you're like, oh my god, are they really going to kill this kid? They straight up fed this alligator a baby.
Totally.
I mean, like, not, they didn't do it on purpose. I'm just saying, like, the movie, like, fed an alligator a kid. And that's pretty gruesome. Oh, but
the wedding.
Those kids.
Yeah, totally. No, that was like, plus it's hilarious because it's like, okay, like, these little kids, they just basically killed that other kid.
And they never really, like, of course there's not. If you want to keep the movie light, you can't show the fallout of, like, mothers crying, inconsolably about their murdered babies.
I love how the mom comes out and she's like, oh no, and she turns on the light in the pool so that we can see the alley, which is a great shot. It's a great shot when the kid's looking down into the water and you see the alligator come up.
Oh, it's so bad. The whole thing turns red. But yeah, like the wedding scene,
feels big.
Just really fantastic because that's when you start seeing him for the first time using that goddamn tail, using what the Lord gave him.
There are people literally flying everywhere when he attacks the wedding. It's like shot after shot of people flying through the air and crashing into tents and stuff.
And him
or into the wedding cake.
Yeah.
And then there's that really like crazy shot of like completely unnecessary but really fake moralistically satisfying where you got that old man who's like like a crime boss. He's in his like big old town car and he's trying to get away. And everybody's staring at the alligator. And some I don't know if it's like the sleazy politicians trying to get into the car. And he won't let him in the car even though he has plenty of time to let him in the car. Mm-hmm. And then the alligator kills the dudes, but then he smashes the car to the point that he crushes the old man. Mm-hmm. Why would alligator do that? Alligator wouldn't do that, but alligator has to do that because that's what the movie calls for.
It's rampaging. Mm-hmm. It's a monster.
It's a monster.
Yeah, it was basically like the Street Fighter bonus stage. We have to destroy the car.
Totally.
And then that's when you're like, oh, that's what you get, old man, for not letting this other dude into your car. Or for not trying to save anybody else but yourself.
It's a bit similar to the climax, or the sort of climax of Piranha when it attacks, when there's the big piranha attack and everything goes haywire and everyone's losing limbs.
Yeah, that's good.
And you guys thought that Stun would be the only movie that we would review with a like reception creature attack in it.
Yeah, wedding reception attack. It's a good place for a monster to attack. It's high concentration of people all together that they can get.
And lots of like, pretty fancy white stuff that he can smear with blood.
Oh, I like the fact too that the barbecuing is what attracted it. Did you notice they were barbecuing steaks and it smelled the barbecue and came to
Who does that at a wedding, by the way?
I know. Who barbecues?
At a fancy wedding, by the way. This was a fancy wedding.
Totally.
But I love the whole, like, the mayhem and then people falling into the pool, which it never goes into the pool, right? But
it does, doesn't it? Or it goes into in the wedding it goes in, is that where it goes into that pond? No, that's earlier.
Yeah. Well, I just, because as soon as people are falling into the water, they're more vulnerable because now you have to wade through water and climb out into the frenzy to try to get away. Mm-hmm. So that was, even though I don't think he went into the pool, it still caused me a lot of anxiety to see people falling into the pool, which was fun.
Well, also this movie does so people often talk about Jaws, how Jaws scared them so much that they even are scared to go in pools because they're worried that there might be a shark in the pool, which is obviously irrational. But this movie actually gets to capitalize on that fear and actually have the alligator hide in pools and eat people.
And that's even happened in I've seen it in YouTube videos. I mean, not that size, but there's oh hey, there's an alligator in here.
Yeah, we're in Florida, of course.
Fucking Florida.
I saw a thing, actually, a YouTube video where somebody was filming this huge alligator, and they were standing by their pool, and there was a big glass enclosure. And in the comments section, somebody said, how come, if this person lives in Florida and it's all warm, why do they have the pool enclosed in glass? And somebody responded, to keep the alligators out. And I think must have been true because there was a huge alligator hanging out on the lawn next to the pool.
That's awful. Jesus, alligators are scary.
What is that movie? They're basically dinosaurs. That's a quote that always pops in my head. I can't remember what
Lake Placid? No.
I know, totally. Some alligator.
That's my only other alligator movie that I know off the top of my head.
But they are basically dinosaurs. They've lived that long.
Yep.
So what? Okay, so back to the movie.
All right, so we've talked about the Big Game Hunter, which had a fantastic end to him because that's when you really got to see the scale. Mm-hmm. And then the wedding's fantastic because you got to see the alligator using his tail and crushing a fucking car. Mm-hmm. So that was great. And then also, the end of that scene was, I remember thinking because there was just mayhem, right? So everybody's bandaged up and there's paramedics everywhere. So I thought that was neat too, just to show the scale of damage that the alligator can do in a scene.
You know what just occurred to me though is all the severed limbs. First of all, a thing that was funny about the movie was how often that main character cop is walking around with bags of severed limbs. In the first half of the movie, there's 2 different times where he's just got a severed arm.
And they're not very good about processing. They're just stuffing them in bags, right? Well, I mean,
but it just occurred to me that all of the limbs are sliced off, but not chewed off. Or there's no kind of people chewed up. Mm-hmm. It's all severed limbs.
The alligator's really wasteful. He's just taking off limbs and then just moving on.
And he's not really eating. Yeah, he's just kind of he just kind of bites them off and then leaves them. But yeah, I guess he just eats the pets.
Yeah, that's right. He's this is no good.
Yeah, I remember too, when this movie came out, they also had merchandise that came out with the movie as well, and one of them was something that was repurposed later on when I was a kid for board games. But when Alligator came out, they had the game where you would try to take something out of the alligator's mouth, and then it would try to close on you basically, and if you got bit, you lost.
I think they actually had a Jaws shark type of game that was similar to that, where it had the mouth that would close on you. Mm-hmm. But yeah. I've never seen that toy. Yeah, somehow, I don't know how I missed this so much culturally, but I never saw that kind of toy or stuff about this movie. It was very weird.
Yeah, it was just a weird thing, though, because it's this is definitely, a killer animal movie that they come out with, this kid's toy, basically, that had, the same alligator font on, the box.
Yeah.
But then, I remember, when I was a kid, that kind of, turned into, the whole, pulling the teeth out of the alligator as another,
Oh, that's right. And then, one of them will trigger him to close his mouth, and that's how you lose. Mm-hmm.
Right. That was a much more friendly.
I was just thinking that, after a movie like Jaws, and then you see this barrage of movies that have a similar structure to them, your immediate, the first thing that comes into your mind is that they're not going to be as good, that they're going to be ripoffs, and that they might not be worthy of your time. But honestly, I really enjoyed Piranha, and I really enjoyed Alligator, and yeah, they're solid.
Yeah, definitely. But it's that was another thing I was kind of thinking of, how it's interesting that we look back at these movies that are considered to be like that, especially at the time, were considered to be like, oh, these are super low budget, like bad movies. But compared to today, because now the technology is so easy to get a hold of that anyone can make a movie, and so you see stuff that's just like unwatchable. And what like this movie by today's standards is a completely legit, real movie.
Very great movie.
If it came out today, it would probably be somewhat of a success. You know, it wouldn't fail or be looked down on as like, oh my god, look at that movie. Like, it does all the real things that a movie should do, and the cinematography is good on it.
And the quality of the standard of acting is very high.
Yeah, and all the acting is good. There's no one really.
Nobody drops
bad.
the ball. Yeah.
Except
for that goddamn alligator. I'm kidding. He's great.
Oh, and the big game hunter is the guy from Swamp Thing too.
Hey.
I love Swamp Thing, the first one. Everyone in this movie is a real actor. I think this must be a New York movie. I feel like I didn't check, but it seems like this is made in. That they actually made this in New York, and maybe not a Hollywood movie, but I don't know.
Well, I want to say like it's supposed to take place in like the Midwest, but they never tell you exactly where.
Oh, I thought it was New York for some reason.
I thought it was supposed to take place in New York, but it's actually kind of hard to tell.
Yeah.
I know, that's the thing.
The police department seemed to have a lot of budget for like gear. Like
I just know they had mentioned like Missouri.
Oh shoot! Okay, and that makes sense if it's if this alligator came from Florida. Yeah. Initially,
which they used to do that in real life.
Yeah,
you could get baby alligators.
They're crazy cute.
Baby chameleons they used to give out as gifts, like in fairs. Now it's like goldfish. I don't know if they do that at all anymore. But when I was a kid, they would do goldfish.
They still do goldfish.
Yeah,
I mean they die before you get home.
Yeah, or they just get flushed down the toilet. You know, that's what happens. The alligator got the goldfish treatment in the movie.
Well, that is a thing, of course, in real life. You have where people will have like a pet boa and release it into the wild, and it lives on and is successful and grows and becomes a huge boa
nuisance.
Yeah, 16-foot. Yeah.
and they had the Bigfoot references kind of in it, where they took the plaster cast of the alligator's print, and they were like, this alligator's huge, like it must be like what, they were estimating its size based on its footprint. And it's like, I don't know, I'm nitpicking. It's just like fun to nitpick the movie, but I was thinking, like, do you really need to take a plaster cast of its footprint? This thing is rampaging around the city.
It's killing people, man.
The mystery is over. We know it exists.
Okay, get your ass out there and look at it.
But, and also, I felt kind of bad for the doctor character because she kind of ran out of things to do. In the second half of the
just
movie.
Like
just tag along
and like comfort the main character at home when he had a long day of hunting alligator. Because, I mean, like, initially she was wrong. She's like, no way, there's an alligator. It's too big, guys. No way. And then later she was like, oh, shit, that might be my alligator.
That's actually a great scene early in the movie.
Yeah, Ramon.
But when the news interviews her and they say, what do you think it is? And she said, it's an alligator.
Yeah.
And they're like, do you think it might possibly be
No.
It's an alligator. She's like, no, it's an alligator.
So that was pretty great. I'm glad that she came on board right away. At first, because at first she's like, no way, guys. And then, of course, when the evidence was so clear. Oh, because the fucker, they had pictures.
Yeah.
That journalist that was like a huge dick.
Oh, yeah.
Actually managed to take a bunch of pictures of the alligator.
Yeah, exactly. Before he got eaten. I like how he kept bringing up the fact that the police guy lost his partner.
What a dick.
But he wasn't really making any point about it.
No, he was just trying to rub it in.
Yeah, just being an asshole about it. But he's not like...
Well, he's trying to get a rise out of him so that he can have a story.
Yeah. True.
Yeah.
But they were doing the press conference, and then he's like, oh, one last question. You let your partner die, right? And he's like, yes, I did.
That's great. Just Yeah, me. One more thing.
That was you, right? You let your partner die.
Yep, and it was still keeping David up at night.
Mm-hmm. I know the flashback scene of the other guy who dies. That was sort of.
I was like confused at first. I was like, "Who the fuck is this? What, did I miss something?" And then I realized, like, oh, flashback. I got it. We're still watching Alligator.
Yeah. Alligator. And they had a little bit of Jaws music where they kind of ripped off the Jaws theme a little bit here and there. And they had a couple of Jaws shots underwater mimicking the first-person view of Jaws, kind of.
Pretty neat.
Which you got to do, of course, if you're making your Jaws rip-off movie, rip-off. But I feel like this movie it's definitely, obviously inspired by Jaws, but it also, and it does copy it, but it also stands on its own in a good way. It's not just like, oh, this is just a lame copy. It actually is a good movie on its own.
Have we gotten to the grand finale of the destruction of the alligator? Because that was pretty fun too and exciting. Mm-hmm. And of course, with the little old lady unwilling to move her car from the one manhole cover that was going to save David that nobody had secured. All right.
She had one job.
One job. Keep this manhole cover clear.
Yeah, that's why she wasn't supposed to tag along. Like the prior part of the movie.
So, I mean, that was a pretty good plan. The plan was to gas the alligator, much like Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yeah.
So, drug it and then explode it.
And then blow it up.
Which ultimately did work.
Yeah. But the only reason why David had those supplies in the first place was because of the fake bomb threat in the police department.
Kind of forgot about that, too. That's right. That guy, the crazy...
Yeah, and which was great, too, because they literally just had, like, the shelf with dynamite sitting on it. He just goes in there and grabs the dynamite off the shelf. It's like, this'll come in handy.
But then I thought that the bomb that guy brought in, like, wasn't programmed properly. But I guess it was totally... it was that bomb, and it was totally functional. And he was able to, like, program it to blow up. I didn't stop to think about how he knew how to do that.
Yeah, no. That part felt weirdly tacked on.
Well, they had to kill it somehow.
Yeah,
John.
they were like, it almost felt like, how are we going to end this movie?
They're not going to rehome him back to Florida.
And they had the dramatic run out of where he had to climb out and get out before the explosion.
I did feel it though when that lady like just had her car on top of that manhole cover, and he couldn't get out, and it was scary, and time was running out.
Mm-hmm. The exciting countdown.
Yeah.
Like the Alien movie countdown, self-destruct.
Pretty neat. And then, of course, the last bit of like, hey, here's another little alligator that can flush down the toilet.
Yeah.
When's your movie coming out, buddy?
Of course, the Oscar. I just watched recently Return of the Living Dead. And it does the exact same thing where it has the thing at the end where it's like, oh, it's all starting over again exactly the same way that it started in the first place.
That's a nice little trick.
Mm-hmm. Which I guess we did actually get in the sequel, but...
That's right. So what was the sequel like?
I don't know. I haven't seen it.
Oh, yeah. I thought you had. Okay.
No, but it is on Shudder.
I'm tempted. No, I'm not.
I just know that it came out in '91 and it has Dee Wallace in it. That's all I know. Huh. But it was much more serious. It's a lot less camp than Alligator.
Yeah. I wonder if that came out... That must have come out right around the same time as the other Alligator one, the Lake Placid.
Yeah, Lake Placid was...
Oh, no, that's after.
That's after, because that was like mid to late 90s.
Yeah, that was...
If not early 2000s.
Sure.
Yeah.
Alligators. I don't know. Alligators are cool, but they're not that scary overall, like in terms of monsters. Or as scary. I guess
they walk on water, they swim in... Sorry, they walk on land, they swim in water, and...
Yeah, true.
They eat raw chickens.
And they are actually ambush predators. Yeah. That's the thing. They do lurk under the water and
then jump up and eat cheetahs and shit. Yeah.
Like in Crocodile Dundee, when it almost eats the lady in that movie.
Oh, yeah.
But... No, that's right. I forgot that they actually do that because they actually made a point of showing it attack that way a few
and
times.
they can lay still in the water for like a really long time, so that people can't see them moving around down there.
I swear, the kid was the funniest part.
That was so wrong. I was like, no, right into his mouth.
I was thinking after that happened, and then the kids run away. I was like, "You're murderers now. You murdered that kid.
You're murderers now, kids.
You're gonna have to live with that for the rest of your life.
You're gonna remember the Halloween candy forever."
Oh, and this is so random too, but the shot when they show the kid's birthday party before that part, they open the door and you see into the party, and there's this one little girl dancing right in front of the door when they open it, and she's doing like the goofiest dance. But it was, I don't know, it stood out to me. It was so hilarious because it was obvious that they were like, oh, there's a party going on in here, but we'll just position one kid right in front of the door who's like doing this weird, goofy
Peanuts dance.
Yeah, exactly. Right in front of the door as those kids come out. I don't know, that just stood out to me.
I didn't think it was going to happen. I thought they were going to realize it and pull him back.
In a modern movie, that would not have happened. They would not have... He would have gotten out or something before it happened.
I feel like in other movie reviews, we've like talked about like, oh, they wouldn't have killed a kid, during this time. But now we know they have. So this is good reference. So write that down. So Alligator.
You can kill kids in your movie.
Yeah, he should have just chewed off the entire diving board. He could have had 3 for the price of 1.
I know.
Yeah, they do the kind of the sort of blood effect in the water really quick as...
So you can't really see anything, yeah.
And there was good gore in this movie.
There was lots of good gore.
They did lots of as I mentioned, lots of bit off legs in this movie. That was kind of the main thing.
I still love the big reveal, which was the alligator busting through a sidewalk.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was going to happen like that. And then it started cracking.
That stop motion animated? It sort of looked like
it. I don't know if that's the case, but it did have that sort of weird, like, slow kind of, weird video to it.
Totally. They definitely had a huge fake alligator for sure. That looked surprisingly
Of course,
good.
Man.
It looked really good too. Was the thing? It didn't look like a cheesy fake.
Yeah, it looked really good.
Stuffed alligator.
I feel like fake alligators aren't that hard to make. I mean, they already look pretty crazy.
There were definitely a couple of shots in the movie too where I couldn't figure out if it was a fake alligator that they were sort of making walk, or if it was a real alligator that they filmed walking, Because there are some shots with real alligators for sure. And then somewhere it's obvious, it's definitely the dummy one. But, no, the shot, the long shot of the guy in the mouth, the hunter, which of course mimics the shot in Jaws where, the captain gets eaten in the back of the boat, which is that shot.
Yeah, it's pretty great. But this one's in a gritty alley, full of trash.
Who did direct this movie? Is it anybody that we know, or is it...
Hold on. Let me look it up real quick.
It feels like, obviously the writer is the same, but it feels very connected to...
It was Louis Teague.
I don't recognize the name. Yeah, I don't know if he... Does he have any notable other credits?
Let's see. IMDb. Pulling it up real quick.
Mm-hmm. He did a good
job. He did Cujo, would be his bigger movie.
Cujo, that's a good movie, yeah. Cujo feels like the kind of first of its kind type of movie where it's just like one or two people trapped in a single location. Kind of movie. I don't know if there were movies like that before Cujo, but that became a genre of its own.
Yeah, Cujo and Cat's Eye were his two.
Have you ever heard of Cat's Eye?
Cat's Eye is a good one.
Really?
That's you've probably seen it. It's a Stephen King anthology movie.
Ooh, I love those. Maybe
that has the great one where that's a great movie. It has James Woods, who obviously is a questionable person, but
at least he's a good actor in his own little range.
Yeah, but that's the James Wood one where he is quitting smoking, and he hires a company to help him quit smoking, and they basically like stalk you and threaten to murder you if you smoke.
Like, what are the other ones like? The other stories?
And then there's one, the Cat's Eye wraparound kind of story is that there's a little girl who I think is Drew Barrymore.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, and there's a cat, there's a little gremlin creature that's trying to like kill her, and her pet cat is trying to save her from the gremlin, but but her parents think that the cat is actually the one that's messing with her. And then I can't remember other ones from that, but it's good. It's a good.
Check that out again.
It's kind of Creepshow-esque anthology movie. Yeah,
clearly.
Mm-hmm. But no, he's a good director. He's good.
Good stuff
for sure.
All right, so Alligator. I dug it. Thumbs up.
A legit movie. Yeah, and a surprisingly underrated because it should be, it's not at the level I think of in terms of popularity or cult status of Piranha, but it should be like as well known as those movies, but somehow still is kind of underrated.
I think I actually enjoyed it more than Piranha.
Yeah, I think maybe I did too.
Just because of that wedding scene.
And I like the actor and the main character in this one. I like better than the guy from Piranha, the like angry drunk park ranger guy.
Ranger, yeah.
He wasn't bad, but he was just kind of bland, But that guy, definitely good for sure. Definitely a better movie than has any right to be.
Now,
yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of that just has to do with the fact that Alligator wasn't readily available for a lot of people because, like, it went out of print when it was out on DVD, and then it wasn't released on Blu-ray for a very long time. I mean, the 4K release was very recently, like this year, basically. Whereas, like with Piranha was readily available. You could stream it, you could buy it on Blu-ray or whatever. Alligator wasn't streamed anywhere either.
And they would play Piranha on television back in the days of TV, and but would not I don't have any memories. Like I said, I've never seen this movie before, and I have no memories of seeing it just being played randomly,
or even like the VHS sitting on a shelf on
Blockbuster. Not even that. But Piranha was definitely one of those.
Because I remember the very
on the shelf VHS.
Yeah, it's got that iconic movie cover. Yeah. It's true. All right, big question though. Do we think Joe got me a single small claw, or do you think there's like 4 of its buddies or 5 of its buddies in the fridge?
There's probably more.
Okay.
I would imagine there's more.
If it was a big boy, I'd be like, oh, he just got me the big boy. Okay.
All right, so looking ahead, next week we have another creature feature. We have Humanoids from the Deep.
The rapey one.
Yeah.
Which came out in 1980, directed by Barbara Peters and an uncredited director. For reasons we'll get into next week. Which also has to do with some of the more sexual assault-based parts of the movie. But pure grindhouse schlock.
Yeah, and this is a Roger Corman movie. And, this movie is rapey, and another movie he put out at the same time, which was their Alien ripoff. I think it's called Galaxy of Terror, is also very rapey. Like, it was like a weird thing going on at this time in these movies. So,
well, I mean, the Corman camp had a lot of direct. I mean, even the people who did Alligator were out of the Corman camp, basically.
Definitely.
But a lot of them kind of were like within that wheelhouse.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, it's a movie I have seen before, Humanoids from the Deep, but it's been so long that I barely remember. I just remember them running around in the pier. It's like a boardwalk kind of thing, I think, and they're running around wreaking havoc is all I remember about it. And they're kind of Cthulhu-esque. They're kind of like deep ones, like we talked about with the underwater movie. They're kind of, and deep ones will kidnap women and stuff. So, and kind of like the
deep ones will kidnap women. We all know this.
Kind of like,
as you know,
it's what they do. And kind of like the creature from the Black Lagoon, same.
Yeah, just like the host just kidnaps children.
They're just looking for love.
That's just how that
is. But inappropriately.
They're just looking for unconsensual love.
Yeah, they're just not. They just need to. I don't know. They need to understand it's not the right
They need to learn, yeah. They just need to be sat
it's
down.
Not okay.
Taught about consent and yeah.
Creatures. Maybe the woman from the beach house, when she becomes a sea creature, she could go teach them about consent.
That's nuts, John. You're going off the deep end.
I'm just trying to tie all the
movies together. All right.
Together with the common theme.
Well, Kristen Stewart hasn't killed them all yet. Maybe.
Yeah, I know. Or like exploded them from the inside when she punches her way out.
That was rad.
Well, on that note, so yeah, next week, Humanoids from the Deep. And then the week after that, we'll wrap up our aquaphobia deep dive with Leviathan.
Yeah.
Which, man, it's been a minute since I've seen that one.
I've never seen that one. Leviathan. I think it's a ripoff of The Abyss.
The Abyss, yeah. I saw it ages ago.
I've never seen it.
But I have not seen it probably since around 2000 or so. So when did it come out? Late 90s? Early 2000s?
Oh, Leviathan?
90s
yeah.
At
I think it's late 90s, yeah. Well, whenever
it was 89.
Oh, 89.
89. Does that mean The Abyss came out in like 88, 89?
Yeah, I think the Abyss is definitely 80s.
That's kind of crazy. I guess it is 80s, huh? I think of it as a 90s movie because it...
Both of them came out in 89.
Oh, they both came out in 89.
Mm-hmm.
I think of it as, because, 89 is almost 90s, but it's so advanced that it's kind of a 90s movie.
That's cool.
But, not Leviathan, The Abyss. Of course.
Leviathan's a piece of shit.
Leviathan is a happy piece of shit.
Oh shit! I picked a shitty one. Well, The Abyss isn't technically a horror, right? So that's why I didn't go with The Abyss.
The funny, when I was kind of looking around too at water movies, everybody puts The Abyss
as a horror
on that
but it's
list.
like no.
It has horror.
You gotta draw
elements.
the line somewhere.
It definitely has horror elements, especially the first half of it is sort of treated like a horror movie, but then it becomes a full-fledged sci-fi adventure for the second half.
Right. I just remember growing up as a kid watching The Abyss a lot and preferring that one over Leviathan. So I'm curious to see if that's going to hold true.
Probably.
So many years later.
It feels like we're going to be bashing a movie for about an hour.
Well, and there's a whole little subgenre of Abyss ripoffs, like the Deep. I think it's called
Deep
Six something.
Deep Six, yeah. And there's another. You could almost do a whole month of just Abyss.
Shitty
ripoffs.
Abyss ripoffs. That seems like a painful month.
Definitely. We won't do that.
No, that's not good.
Yeah.
Oh, and Sphere. That was another one.
Yeah.
With Ben Affleck. Early Ben Affleck.
Oh no, I don't know what's worse, early or late Ben Affleck.
It's hit or miss.
Mm-hmm.
Ben Affleck in Dazed and Confused is pretty cool. That's early Ben Affleck. That's pretty good.
Mallrats,
Ben Affleck's pretty good.
Yeah. Okay.
But then
speaking of which, we got the Clerks 3 trailer out.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys saw that.
3. Is he must have a cameo in that, I would think.
I'm sure.
He's got a... Yeah, I'm going to watch that.
Same.
Nice. So,
the new Monsters, the trailer came out for the new Monsters. Mm-hmm. I don't know how I feel about it.
Yeah. It's Rob Zombie, but it feels like, what's his name from Edward Scissorhands?
Tim Burton.
Yeah, it looks like a Tim Burton movie.
But it looks like less... No, you're right. Yeah, kind of like the Edward Scissorhands, kind of like jokey vibe to it.
It feels like those...
really oversaturated colors versus black and white.
It just looks very cheap. Honestly.
It looks really
It feels like those wave of remakes, like when they did like the Brady Bunch movie, and stuff like that. It feels like it kind of falls into that area, kind of movie.
But I mean, it's on purpose. The man knows how to make a movie, so it's cheap on purpose. So we'll see how that works out. You're like,
I know.
His track record doesn't really hold up.
I'm not a huge Rob Zombie fan.
But they look. I mean, like, I am also not a Rob Zombie movie side fan, but
he peaked early.
But they're, but they have good cinematography. They have acting.
I did sort of enjoy his the Witch movie, the one,
Salem one.
Yeah, the one.
I like that one too.
Plays like the DJ, like radio DJ.
Although, and although in that movie, not to get into another synopsis of a different movie, like he has like one of like his shocking parts is like he's got all these like I guess like evil demonic priests that are like masturbating like in front of her, and I'm like.
It's like,
have you never gotten a dick pic, dude? Like that's like the most boring thing I can think of, actually.
Not shocking.
Like not shocking, sir. Someone doesn't understand porn is free these days.
Totally.
Just saying. But I did like that movie because it had like the really cool witches too.
Yeah.
All the witches that were in there were like great horror movie actresses, and that was really neat. I like that a lot. And I think his wife's pretty good too.
Yeah.
And I hear what she only acts in his movies, which I think is super sweet. So I'm torn about Rob Zombie.
Yeah, Monsters. It also looked to get back to the Monsters. It looked a little too like. It just looked like the show, but it looked exactly like the TV show, but just modernized and in color.
And then like his wife is doing this high pitched voice the whole time. But I'm like, ooh, that's gonna get old quick.
It might get annoying.
What else? We'll see. We'll probably watch it, right?
Maybe. I don't know. That depends on if it's a theatrical release or not.
Yeah.
But anyways, so next week, Humanoids from the Deep. And that will wrap it up for us here tonight on Handle with Scare. Again, if you guys are looking to keep in contact with everything going on here on the podcast, you can find our video content over on YouTube at Handle with Scare Pod. And you can also follow us on Twitter at Handle with Scare. But until next time, Fiends, we will see you next week. Y'all have a good night.